Bríd Smith.
I just want to make 3 points. The first is on the planning process. I was alerted to this line from Fine Gael as an opponent of this bill through the Friends of the Earth email campaign that they organised, and I want to thank them for doing that. Thousands of emails would have been sent to Dáil deputies and senators in support of this bill from the environmental movement. And Josepha Madigan replied just as you did, Deputy Burke. But you know, the planning process has never been neutral. It's always been weighted heavily in favour of those with wealth and with power. And it has always limited the rights of ordinary people to oppose certain developments. If you take the strategic infrastructure developments, they are set up in an act to allow the government to decide what's important, not for ordinary citizens to decide what's important. And by the way, the Planning Act has been amended multiple times. And there's been hundreds of statutory instruments added to it to allow developers build and develop in certain ways, to allow them lower the spec sizes for apartments, to allow for strategic housing developments that are littered all around our cities. And the Dáil is absolutely entitled to prohibit, to guide and to control certain developments, and particularly in emergency. We had a financial emergency declared by the government, some of the legislation we still have a hangover from, back in the 2010-2011 or 2010-2011. We had a health emergency this year, we passed extraordinary legislation. We now have a climate emergency, and that is why this bill has that in the title. This is a climate emergency measure, and I went to great lengths to explain why we took this. I'm sure your precious understanding of the neutrality of the planning process would be baffling to communities who are living surrounded by student accommodation, apart hotels and co-living office blocks or multiple blocks around this city. So I don't take that from Fine Gael, and I particularly don't take the enthusiasm of the chair of the Environmental Committee about data centres and how we wouldn't have windmills in Offaly and in the Midlands unless we had data centres. The Deputy knows that's nonsense. If we have renewable energy, we can use it to power the homes of people, to power transport. You have said it yourself multiple times at the committee meetings. You have been there when the evidence was given by experts on data centres. And it's not that we're starting from the beginning and saying, absolutely no data centres. We have 70 of them. We are the data hub of Europe. 25% of all data centres are in this small country. And it may be said, oh, you have a cooler climate, etc. But that is not the point. Our electricity system can't withstand it. And I just want to quote Bill Thompson from Mayor Grid. I think this is a very strong quote and very sensible. He says, Ireland's electricity system was surely not planned nor designed to be a system which seeks to serve the needs of the global citizen for increased data supported by an ever proportionately small non-data centre, non-commercial, industrial and domestic load. We can't cope. And when I say we, I mean ordinary people. And if we have blackouts this winter, it is not because of the other developments of, you know, electrifying cars, etc. It is because the preponderance of data centres is sucking up much needed energy. And should that happen, I will be back to that committee and I will be looking for them to reverse their position on carbon taxes. You are loading the responsibility onto ordinary people, the ones that can least afford it. Last point is the Cloud Infrastructure Ireland. I asked the Taoiseach the other day, had he been lobbied by them? He denied it. I've asked him again in writing, and I'm going to ask every single party in this Dáil, have you been lobbied by Cloud Infrastructure Ireland, which was set up within a week after I introduced the first movement of this bill, set up deliberately by IBEC, led by a Labour Party TD, Michael McCarthy, a former Labour Party TD, to lobby this House to stop this bill going forward. And if you all kowtow to the global corporate giants of the tech industry once again in this country, then shame on you. We need a new Green Party, abolish the existing one and get a decent party that represents people, environment and planet before the profit of the giant corporations.